Melinda Wall McGhee was a nurse, a wife, and a mother. She worked nights, came home to sunlight, and lived a quiet life in Atmore, Alabama, until that fateful morning routine ended. On March 24th, 2003, Melinda vanished from her home in broad daylight. No one heard her scream, but there was blood, a lot of blood, and a struggle that told its own story. This isn't a story about a woman who simply walked away. This is the story of a woman who fought and was erased. Melinda worked the night shift at a nursing home, and she had worked at a prison system for a time. She clocked out just after sunrise, drove home, called her husband Troy, and then her mom around 8:30 a.m. By the time Troy returned from work at 4 p.m., everything that made their home familiar was indeed gone. Her vehicle was still outside, her phone, purse, and keys locked inside, just as she had told Troy she'd done by accident earlier that morning. But what waited inside that house wasn't quiet. It was chaos. Drawers were pulled open, furniture overturned, and a dark, unmistakable stain on the floor. Police would later describe it as a scene of intense violence. Melinda didn't vanish. She was taken, injured, and bleeding, gone without a trace. When a disappearance is this brutal, investigators don't start with strangers. They start with the predators. And in 2003, two names loomed like phantoms over the Gulf states: Jeremy Brian Jones and Derek Todd Lee. Jones the drifter, the hunter, the man who prowled Alabama's back roads. He had murdered Lisa Nichols just miles away. His methods were sudden, personal, and vicious. Could Melinda have answered her own door to him? Maybe he claimed he needed help. Maybe he smiled at first. Then there was Derek Todd Lee, the Baton Rouge serial killer who moved like smoke between Louisiana and Alabama. One of his victims, Randy Mabrewer, vanished from her home. No forced entry, no body, just the echo of violence. Could Lee have crossed the state line, hunting again? The MO fits, but still, no proof, only a pattern. But not every monster comes from the highway. Melinda didn't just work in homes and hospitals. She once worked inside a prison, a place where violence waits just beneath the surface, and names stick in memory much longer than they should. It's never been proven, but investigators had quietly considered the possibility that Melinda's abductor wasn't a stranger, but someone who had once seen her through the bars. Maybe a former inmate who remembered her face, her kindness, her schedule. Someone who waited just long enough for her guard to drop. When Troy came home that day, he found one other detail the police still can't explain. A handwritten note. Just 2 words. Call work. No one knows if Melinda wrote it before she disappeared, or if the killer left it behind. Maybe a deliberate taunt, knowing it would mean nothing, and yet everything all at once. And then there's the impossible question. How do you remove a woman who's fought, screamed, who's bleeding, in the middle of the broad daylight without being seen? That's what haunts investigators even now. Whoever took her didn't just kill. They planned, and they vanished. Was it Jones? Perhaps Lee? Or someone who once knew her name and watched her life from behind steel bars? It's been more than 20 years. No body, no closure. Only the silence left behind by a single note and a shadow. Melinda Wall McGhee is still missing, and somewhere out there, someone still remembers what they did that morning. Where is Melinda?